This is not just another experience like you're used to knowing. This is a message, a call, and a special invitation from Jesus to every senior watching this. This is not a gimmick. This is not a clickbait video to waste the time of every respected individual who, by the leading of the Spirit, decided to watch this video. I can guarantee you one thing, and that is, you won't regret watching this video to the end. And everything you see or read is true if only you will stay to the end. To every senior watching this, just know that we celebrate you, and we are always happy that at such a stage of life, you still desire God. We love you. Now we ask that you kindly tell us where you are watching from and your age to encourage the younger ones. Let us know where you are watching from so we can connect as a family, and also, most importantly, leave a word of encouragement to the younger ones as you are led by the Spirit of God. 3 months ago, a senior shared 3 formula that Jesus gave him in an experience that he had, and we did not rush to share without testing it on 3 senior within our reach, and we are glad to let you know that this formula works and there was a massive and great improvement in their health. It's not selling product or pills. This are heavenly formula that requires natural steps and measure senior can take and their health will be restored. Now kindly subscribe so that when we make next post on this you will be notified. I will begin reading today's experience. My name is Margaret, and I'm 67 years old. Please, my fellow soldiers in this stage of life, be patient with me please. I will love you understand everything God gave me to share with you. If others want stay to the end, please don't join them, for this message is for you. For 42 years, I worked as a nurse in the cardiac unit at St. Michael's Hospital. I've seen life come into this world, and I've watched it slip away more times than I care to count. But nothing, absolutely nothing is like what happened to me 3 weeks ago on the night of November 14th. Let me start by telling you something about myself. I'm not the kind of person who chases after supernatural experiences. I've always been practical, grounded in facts and medical science. My faith was there, yes, but it was quiet, personal, the kind you keep in a Sunday morning church pew and a bedside prayer before sleep. I never expected God to shake my entire world in one single night. The trouble started because of my own stubbornness, really. You see, 6 months ago, my doctor, Dr. Phillips, a good man who I've known for 15 years, set me down and gave me strict instructions about my diet. He showed me my blood work, pointed to numbers that were creeping into dangerous territories, and told me in no uncertain terms what I needed to avoid. High sodium foods were at the top of the list. My blood pressure had been climbing steadily, and my kidneys weren't processing things the way they used to. He told me to stay away from processed meats, canned soups, pickles, cheese, basically everything that made food taste good, if I'm being honest. He also warned me about sugary foods because my glucose levels were borderline diabetic. And then there was the cholesterol. Fried foods, he said, were now my enemy. I listened. I nodded. I promised I would follow his instructions. And for a few months, I did. But that particular Wednesday, November 14th, my granddaughter Emma came to visit. She's 23, just graduated from culinary school, and she wanted to cook for me and my husband, Robert. She made this beautiful spread: fried chicken, macaroni and cheese loaded with butter and cream, biscuits with gravy, and a pecan pie for dessert. Everything my doctor told me not to eat. I looked at that table, and I looked at Emma's face, so proud and excited, and I thought to myself that just this once wouldn't hurt. One meal couldn't possibly kill me. Robert gave me that look, the one he's perfected over our 44 years of marriage, the one that says I should know better. But I ignored it. I ate everything. I even had 2 slices of pie. By early evening, around 7 o'clock, I started feeling strange. It began as a tightness in my chest, nothing alarming at first, just uncomfortable. Then came the heaviness, like someone had placed a weight on my sternum. My left arm started to ache, and a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. I knew these signs. I'd seen them 1,000 times in patients, but I did what so many people do: I denied it. I told myself it was just indigestion, that I'd overdone it with the rich food, that I'd feel better if I just rested. I didn't want to worry Robert or Emma, so I excused myself, said I was tired, and went to lie down in our bedroom. Robert followed me after about 20 minutes. He took one look at me and knew something was wrong. He asked me what was going on, his voice tight with concern. I looked pale, he said, like all the color had drained from my face. I told him about the chest tightness, the arm pain. He wanted to call for emergency help right then and there, but I, stubborn as always, convinced him to wait. I suggested we just see if it would pass, and if I wasn't better in a couple of hours, we'd go to the hospital. He didn't like it, but he agreed. He sat in the chair next to our bed, watching me like a hawk, checking his watch every few minutes. By 11 o'clock that night, it got worse. Much worse. The pain intensified, radiating from my chest down both arms now. My breathing became shallow and labored. I couldn't get comfortable no matter how I positioned myself. Cold sweat soaked through my nightgown. Robert stood up, his face etched with fear, and reached for his phone. He told me that was it, that he was calling for help now. But before he could dial, everything changed. The pain reached a crescendo that I can't even describe. It was like my chest was being crushed in a vice. And then, suddenly, it stopped. Everything stopped. The pain vanished, but so did everything else. I felt myself lifting, separating, and when I looked down, I saw my own body lying on the bedroom floor. Robert was kneeling beside me, frantically pressing buttons on his phone, his voice breaking as he shouted into it, begging for someone to come quickly, telling them his wife had collapsed. I tried to call out to him, to tell him I was right there, but no sound came. I was there, but I wasn't. I could see everything with perfect clarity, but I was no longer in my body. This wasn't a dream. It was more real than real, if that makes any sense. Then I noticed I wasn't alone. To my right, I saw angels. Not the cute cherub kind you see on greeting cards, but magnificent, towering beings of light and strength. And beside each angel stood a person, elderly people, seniors like myself, men and women who looked to be in their 60s, 70s, even 80s and 90s. They were all standing in a perfectly straight line, each person positioned right next to an angel, and they were all holding hands with their angel companion. The line stretched as far as I could see. Hundreds upon hundreds of elderly souls, maybe thousands, all walking together in complete coordination, moving in the same direction with perfect unity. The sight was overwhelming. I couldn't process what I was seeing. Were these people dead? Was I dead? Where were we all going? As I stood there trying to make sense of it all, I felt a presence beside me. I turned and looked up and up and up at an angel who towered above me, easily 12 feet tall, maybe more. His face was kind but serious, filled with purpose. Without a word, he reached down and took my hand. His touch was firm yet gentle, and the moment our hands connected, I felt a peace I'd never experienced before wash over me. Then I realized something else. I was now part of a different line. The massive line I'd been observing, with all those countless seniors and their angels, was moving along the right side. But I, along with just a small handful of other elderly people, maybe 10 or 15 of us, we were walking on the left side. We each had our own angel holding our hand, guiding us. But our group was so much smaller than the enormous procession on the right. We all walked together, both lines moving in parallel, all heading in the same direction. And ahead of us, in the distance, I could see it a light. Not like sunlight or lamplight, but a light that seemed to contain every color and no color at the same time. A light that radiated warmth and love and an intensity that should have been blinding, but somehow wasn't. It drew us forward like a magnet. What struck me most was the atmosphere. There was no panic, no fear, no confusion. The seniors on the right side, despite their enormous numbers, moved with quiet dignity. And on my side, on the left, I could see joy on the faces of my fellow travelers. Not the giddy excitement of children, but a deep, settled joy. The kind that comes from finally arriving home after a long journey. As we walked, though walked isn't quite the right word. It was more like gliding, or being gently pulled forward. The light grew brighter and closer. And even though we were still incredibly far away, I knew who was at the center of that light. I knew with absolute certainty that it was Jesus. I couldn't see his features yet, couldn't make out his form, but his presence was unmistakable. Love and holiness and power radiated from that light in waves that I could feel even from this great distance. We kept moving forward. Both lines, all of us drawn toward him. Time felt different here. I couldn't tell if we'd been walking for minutes or hours. But gradually, slowly, we drew closer. The procession was orderly, purposeful. No one rushed. No one lagged behind. We moved as one body, thousands of seniors all walking in sync with their angels, all heading toward that brilliant light ahead. I looked at the faces of those in the right side line, and I saw such a mixture of emotions: anticipation, reverence, wonder, and yes, that joy I mentioned. But it was different from the joy on the faces of those in my smaller line on the left. Theirs was more subdued, more contemplative, while ours seemed brighter, more immediate. I wondered about this difference. But I didn't have long to ponder it because we were getting closer and closer to the source of the light. That's when I saw something I didn't expect. As we approached nearer to the source of the light, close enough now that I could begin to make out a figure standing at what seemed to be a threshold or gateway. I watched what happened to the people ahead of me. The massive line on the right, the one with hundreds and hundreds of seniors and their angels, would reach Jesus first because of how the lines were positioned. I watched as each person would stop before him. Jesus would speak to them, though I couldn't hear the words yet since I was still too far back. Then something remarkable would happen. An angel would hand them what looked like a scroll, a rolled parchment tied with a cord. The person would take it, bow their head, and then turn to the right, disappearing from my view into what seemed like another realm or dimension. They just vanished, one after another, after receiving their scroll. But those of us on the left line, the much smaller group, when we reached Jesus, something different happened. Instead of scrolls, we were given crowns. And these weren't identical crowns. Each one was unique, different in design and style, some simple, some ornate, some made of what looked like gold, others of light itself, others of something I couldn't identify. After receiving their crown, each person on my side would wait as Jesus spoke to them. Then they would move forward past him, walking through what I now realized was the gate to heaven itself. I caught glimpses beyond that gate, beauty that defied description, colors that don't exist on earth, sounds of worship that made my heart want to burst. I was still quite far back in my line, but with each moment, I moved closer. My heart, or whatever I had in place of a heart in this form, pounded with anticipation and also with questions I couldn't yet voice. The line moved steadily. I watched person after person receive their scroll on the right, and crown after crown placed on heads on the left. The process was both majestic and intimate. Jesus gave each person his full attention, speaking to each one individually, looking into their eyes with such love and recognition. Then I witnessed something that changed everything for me, something that made me understand what was really happening here. The person ahead of me in the right side line reached Jesus. He was an elderly man, probably in his late 70s, with white hair and a weathered face that spoke of years of hard work. His angel stood beside him as he waited before Jesus. Jesus looked at him with such tenderness, such love, and he began to speak. This time, I was close enough to hear clearly. He told the man that he was a faithful son, and explained to him that before him stood thousands of seniors like himself, both men and women, whom the Father had found worthy to engage their hearts. He showed the man how, just like his brothers and sisters, who had already given their hearts for this service, he too would need to be faithful to what was being entrusted to him. The man nodded, and I could see tears streaming down his face. Jesus continued, and he began to tell him about a woman who was responsible for intercession, specifically for the peace of America and Nigeria. He revealed to this man how for the past month, heaven had been able to intervene over these two nations because of the incense this woman and her fellow intercessors had been lifting into heaven. He showed him that this was the reason why America and Nigeria had been enjoying the level of peace they currently had. He made it clear that if not for this intervention, based on what the enemy had intended, the situation would have been terrible in both nations. He went on to reveal more to this man. He told him about how many people had been planning to take over these nations through terrorism and through demonic plans and operations that were designed to break these countries and bring them to their knees. But he explained how this woman and many other intercessors had been pressing day and night, declaring that only God's will would prevail in these nations. At that moment, something clicked in my understanding. These seniors on the right line, they weren't being taken home to heaven. They were being commissioned. They were being shown something, being given assignments, being sent back. The scrolls they received weren't records of their lives but assignments from God. Burdens they would carry, intercessions they would make, prayers they would lift. God was summoning them in visions and dreams and experiences like this one to give them specific tasks. And the scrolls would remind them, when they returned to their bodies, of what God required of them in this season. Then Jesus revealed something that made me tremble. He told the man that in the previous month, only a few persons had been called upon to intercede for nations and peoples. But he showed him that in the month of December, what he was seeing here in this endless line was only a small portion of those whom he would call into intercession. He explained that what the enemy was planning to unleash upon the earth required that men and women must rise and pray so that God could intervene. He paused, and I felt the weight of what he was about to reveal next. He told the man that in this December season, He had chosen to use seniors and elders for these purposes specifically because they had experienced life and had a good understanding of what life truly is. He revealed that heaven had weighed them and found every reason to use them. He showed him that this had already begun, but he made it clear that it would increase dramatically by the 9th day of December. Jesus then revealed something very specific about timing. He explained to the man that it would be in the window of the night, from 12 midnight until 4 in the morning, that many of them would be called upon to seek God's face for the different purposes they were being given. He told him that in this season, many seniors would begin to have visions and dreams and trances in the midnight hours down through 4 in the morning, and that afterward they would be able to rest until the will of God came to pass. Then he went into more detail about the assignments he would give. He revealed that he would call seniors to 7 different categories of intercession. He showed him that these assignments would cover family matters, government and leadership, education systems, economic structures, religious institutions, media and communication, and arts and entertainment. He explained to him that these were the 7 mountains of influence, and that seniors would be stationed to pray for breakthrough in each of these areas. He made a promise to the man. He told him that if they would be faithful in the month of December, before the year came to an end, the world would experience great change and transformation because seniors would have understood the season and would have prayed accordingly. The man bowed low before Jesus. An angel handed him a scroll, and he clutched it to his chest with both hands. Then he turned and moved away, vanishing from my sight to wherever God would send him back. I turned to look behind me at the right sideline, and what I saw took my breath away. It was endless. Thousands upon thousands of seniors stretched back as far as I could see, maybe farther than sight could reach. They all were waiting for their assignments, all being commissioned as prayer warriors for this critical hour in human history. The realization hit me like a wave. God was raising up an army of elderly warriors who would fight not with weapons but with prayers, an army that the world had written off as irrelevant, but that heaven was mobilizing for the greatest battle of this age. I watched more seniors from the right line approach Jesus, receive their scrolls, and disappear back to their earthly bodies with their assignments. Each one received personal attention, specific instructions, tailored assignments. No two were exactly alike. God knew each person, knew their capacity, knew what they could handle, knew where they needed to be positioned in this great spiritual battle. My angel companion squeezed my hand gently, as if to say it would soon be my turn. I looked ahead at my own line, the smaller line on the left, and watched as a few more people received their crowns and passed through heaven's gate. Each time someone went through, I could hear the sounds of celebration on the other side, welcoming them home. The contrast between the 2 lines became clearer to me. Those on the right were being commissioned and sent back. Those on the left were being welcomed home, their earthly assignment complete. Then it was time for Jesus to address someone in my line. The elderly woman directly in front of me stepped forward. Her angel released her hand and stepped back slightly. Another angel approached with a crown, and I watched as it was placed on her head. Jesus told her that she had done well, that she had been a good and faithful servant. He invited her to enter into the joy of her Lord. I saw such peace wash over her face, such complete satisfaction and fulfillment. She walked past him, through the gate, and I caught a glimpse of what lay beyond beauty, beyond description. Colors I'd never seen, music I'd never heard, and joy so pure it was almost painful to witness even from a distance. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward, my angel still beside me but no longer holding my hand. Another angel approached with a crown, and my heart leapt. I thought to myself that this was it, that I was going home, that my time had come. But Jesus did something unexpected. He took the crown from the angel, but instead of placing it on my head, he turned and called to the person behind me in line, another elderly woman I hadn't noticed before. He placed the crown on her head, blessed her, and she moved forward into heaven, tears of joy streaming down her face. I stood there, confused, empty-handed. What did this mean? Had I done something wrong? Was I not worthy? Jesus turned back to me, and his eyes were full of compassion, full of love that melted away all my confusion and fear. He told me that I was not being given a crown that day because my time had not yet come. I didn't understand at first. My mind was reeling. If I wasn't dying, then why was I here? Why had I been brought to this place? He explained to me that I had been brought here to see what season heaven was entering, and to reveal this secret to as many seniors as were ready, so they would not take this moment for granted. Then he began to show me things, to reveal truths to me in a way I can't fully explain. It wasn't just words, he was downloading understanding directly into my spirit, showing me visions within the vision, opening my eyes to see what was happening in the spiritual realm all over the earth. He revealed to me that this was the time of his visitation upon the elderly generation. He showed me that around the world, in every nation, in every city, in countless homes, seniors were being awakened in the night hours. He let me see that they were being given dreams and visions and visitations just like mine, all for the purpose of intercession and prayer. He told me that the seniors had found favor in his sight, and he showed me his plan to use them to cause a change in the entire universe and across the globe. Then he revealed the timeline to me. He explained that this movement would begin most noticeably in America, that a movement would start there that would then spread to other countries. He showed me that within 25 days, there would be a rapid uprising of prayer rising from every room where seniors reside across the whole earth. I saw in the vision rooms lighting up like little flames all over a map of the world. Thousands and then millions of rooms where elderly men and women were kneeling, were praying, were interceding, were standing in the gap. Then he told me something that brought me great comfort. He explained that any senior who had not yet received a vision or dream or trance was not excluded from his purposes. He showed me that some of them had their own special assignments to complete for him in this season, assignments that didn't require visions. But he made it clear that if they would be willing to partake even without being specifically called upon by heaven through visions, they would still partake of all the blessings attached to this function. He welcomed all who would answer the call, whether they had supernatural experiences or not. He leaned closer to me, and I felt overwhelmed by his presence, by the love that radiated from him. He told me to go back, to tell others what I had seen. He instructed me to tell them that the midnight hour was coming when he would call them. He commanded me to tell them to be ready, to be watching, to be listening. He showed me that I needed to explain to them that their prayers would shift nations and save lives. He revealed to me that I must tell them that this old generation was not forgotten, that they were his chosen vessels for this hour. He showed me one more thing, something that made everything crystallize in my mind. He revealed that what would happen in December, this massive mobilization of senior prayer warriors, would determine the course of nations for years to come. He let me see that there were evil plans in motion, schemes that had been years in the making, attacks planned against innocent people, against children, against the very fabric of society. But he showed me that if the seniors would answer his call, if they would rise in the night and pray, these plans would be thwarted, lives would be saved, nations would be preserved, families would be protected. The weight of what he was entrusting to me, and to every senior who would hear this message, was almost too much to bear. He told me one final thing. He revealed that the scrolls being given to those on the right line, those being sent back with assignments, those scrolls represented specific burdens that each person would feel. He explained that when they woke up, they might not remember everything they saw, but they would remember the burden. They would wake with a heavy heart for a specific person or place or situation, and that heaviness was the scroll manifesting in their spirit. That was how they would know what to pray for. Then he told me it was time for me to return. I gasped, my lungs filling with air so suddenly it hurt. My eyes flew open. I was on our bedroom floor, but I wasn't alone. Paramedics surrounded me, one of them pulling an oxygen mask away from my face, another removing electrode pads from my chest. Robert was there too, kneeling beside me, his face streaked with tears, his hand gripping mine so tightly I thought my fingers might break. One of the paramedics announced that I was back, that my heart rate was stabilizing, that my blood pressure was coming up. They asked me if I could hear them, if I could tell them my name. I whispered my name, my voice hoarse and rough. They asked if I knew where I was. I told them I was home. But even as I said it, I knew that wasn't entirely true. Part of me was still there, still seeing that endless line of seniors, still hearing Jesus' words, still feeling the urgency of what I'd been shown. They transported me to the hospital, the same hospital where I'd worked for decades. They ran tests, monitored me, asked me questions. The cardiologist confirmed what I already knew. I'd had a cardiac event, likely a heart attack triggered by my foolish decision to ignore my dietary restrictions. But I had survived. Against odds, they told me later, I had survived. The medical team seemed amazed that I had made it through. They told Robert that if he had waited even 5 more minutes to call for help, I likely wouldn't have made it. They said my heart had stopped for several minutes, that they had to work to bring me back. But I knew the truth. I had been somewhere else during those minutes. I hadn't been unconscious. I had been more conscious than I'd ever been in my life. Robert never left my side. When we were finally alone in my hospital room late that night, After all the tests and examinations and doctor visits, I told him everything. I expected him to think I'd hallucinated from lack of oxygen to my brain. Many people who have near-death experiences are dismissed as having had oxygen-deprived hallucinations. But Robert didn't dismiss me. He just listened, and when I finished, he said quietly that God wasn't done with me yet, that he had work for me to do. And he does. I know he does. I can feel it in my bones, in my spirit, in every fiber of my being. I didn't go through that experience just for myself. I was shown those things so I could tell others. I've spent the 3 weeks since that night trying to process everything, trying to find the words to explain what I saw and heard. And now I know it's time to share it. Because December is here, and December 9th is coming soon. And seniors need to know what heaven is doing, what God is calling them to do. If you're watching this, if you're a senior, whether you're 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or beyond, please hear me. What I experienced was real. More real than anything I've ever known in my 6 to 7 years on this earth. Heaven is summoning you, not to die, but to live with purpose in these final days. God is raising up an army of elderly prayer warriors, men and women who have the wisdom of years, who have seen enough of life to know what truly matters, who have the time and the spiritual maturity to stand in the gap for this broken world. You might think you're too old to matter. You might think your best days are behind you. You might think you're just waiting around to die. But God sees you differently. He sees strength where you see weakness. He sees purpose where you see emptiness. He sees mighty warriors where you see tired bodies. Jesus revealed to me that in this month of December, and particularly as we move toward December 9th and beyond, you need to pay attention to your dreams. You need to pay attention to what wakes you in the night between midnight and 4 in the morning. If you find yourself suddenly awake, don't just roll over and go back to sleep. That might be God calling you to pray. He showed me that you might receive a burden for your family, children who are walking away from God, grandchildren caught in addiction, marriages falling apart. When that burden comes, pray. You might receive a burden for your nation, for leaders who need wisdom, for laws that need changing, for evil that needs stopping. When you feel that weight, pray. You might receive visions of specific situations that need intervention. When you see those things, pray. Jesus made it clear to me that God is not asking you to do anything except what you're capable of doing right now, wherever you are. You don't need to travel. You don't need to stand in a pulpit. You don't need to organize anything. You just need to be willing to get up when He calls you, to kneel beside your bed or sit in your chair, and to lift your voice to heaven on behalf of others. He told me that this generation of seniors will literally change the course of history if they will answer the call. Your prayers have power. Your intercession matters. Your faithfulness in the midnight hour will determine whether nations stand or fall, whether families stay together or crumble, whether the plans of darkness succeed or fail. Please, I'm begging you, take this seriously. Don't dismiss this as the ramblings of an old woman who had a medical crisis. What I saw was real. The commissioning of seniors is happening right now, all around the world. Heaven's strategy for this moment in history centers on you, on us, on the generation that the world has written off as irrelevant. We are not irrelevant. We are essential. He showed me something else I need to tell you. He revealed that many of you have been feeling a pull toward God lately, a sense of urgency, a feeling that time is running out. That's not your imagination. That's not anxiety. That's the Holy Spirit preparing you for this assignment. He's been softening your heart, making you sensitive, getting you ready to hear His voice in the midnight hour. If you've never given your life fully to Jesus, do it now. Don't wait another day. Tell Him you know you're a sinner. Tell Him you believe He died for your sins and rose again. Ask Him to forgive you and come into your heart. Surrender your life to Him. When you do that, everything changes in that moment. You step from death into life. And if you already know Jesus, then rededicate yourself to Him right now. Tell Him you're available. Tell Him you'll wake up when He calls. Tell Him you'll pray what He tells you to pray. Tell Him you'll be faithful with whatever scroll He gives you, whatever burden He places on your heart. Jesus revealed to me that the scrolls being given to seniors represented assignments in 7 key areas. He showed me that some would be called to pray for families, for marriages to be restored, for prodigal children to come home, for protection over the next generation. Others would be called to pray for government, for leaders to receive wisdom, for corruption to be exposed, for righteous laws to be established. Some would pray for education, for schools to be protected, for teachers to have wisdom, for children to be taught truth. Others would intercede for the economy, for provision, for businesses to thrive, for poverty to be broken. Some would stand in the gap for religious institutions, for churches to experience revival, for true worship to be restored, for false teaching to be exposed. Others would pray for media and communication, for truth to come forth, for lies to be revealed, for godly voices to be amplified. And some would intercede for arts and entertainment, for creativity to be redeemed, for culture to shift, for beauty and truth to replace darkness and deception. He made it clear to me that every senior who answers the call will be given a specific assignment in one or more of these areas. You'll know which area is yours by the burden you feel, by what weighs on your heart, by what keeps you awake at night. The days are short, the hour is late, but we still have time to make a difference. We still have time to pray heaven down to earth. We still have time to see God move in power. He told me that within 25 days of this movement beginning, he would have mobilized millions of seniors around the world into this prayer army. He showed me that the impact would be felt in every nation, in every sphere of society. He revealed that evil plans that seemed unstoppable would suddenly fall apart. Attacks that seemed inevitable would be prevented. Darkness that seemed overwhelming would be pushed back by light. But he also showed me that this would only happen if seniors answer the call. The responsibility rests on us. The outcome depends on our faithfulness. Heaven is counting on us. The generations coming after us are depending on us, even though they don't know it. Our children and grandchildren, our communities and nations, they need us to stand in the gap. They need us to fight this battle on our knees. Let's not fail them. Let's not fail God. Jesus revealed to me one more thing before I came back to my body. He told me that when this is all over, when we finally do receive our crowns and walk through heaven's gate, he will acknowledge what we did in this season. He will recognize those who answered the midnight call. He will honor those who stood in the gap when others wouldn't. He will declare that we were faithful to the end. That's what awaits us. That's our reward. Not just a crown, but the words from his lips telling us that we did well, that we were good and faithful servants, that we made a difference. Get ready, seniors. Your finest hour is coming. Your most important work is ahead of you. The world may have forgotten you, but heaven hasn't. God has positioned you for this exact moment in history. Be watchful. Be ready. Be faithful. When he wakes you in the night, answer him. When he places a burden on your heart, carry it to him in prayer. When he shows you a vision or dream, don't dismiss it as just your imagination. That's God speaking to you. That's your scroll being delivered. This is our moment. This is our season. Let's not waste it. The line of seniors I saw stretched into eternity. You're part of that line. Your angel is waiting to take your hand. Your scroll is being prepared. Your assignment is coming. Will you answer when he calls? May God bless every senior who answers his midnight call. May he strengthen you for the task ahead. May he fill you with his spirit and guide your prayers. And may the world be changed because you were faithful. The time is now. December is here. The 9th is approaching. Heaven is mobilizing. Answer the call.